What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. And I did pick up from Hakes, as I already mentioned, a really awesome Japanese Poppy Death Star droid. And we're going to take a look at that. But, you know, it's really just unboxing it and taking a close look at it. And I wanted to be a little bit more helpful than my typical unboxing video. So I pulled together some photos of some of the different awesome vintage Star Wars items that came out of Japan. And there was a really good kind of Japanese Star Wars History 101 article that I found on Rebel Scum. And I wanted to just kind of briefly talk about the history of Japanese items for Star Wars, show you a few photos of some items that are either for sale or just from the Rebel Scum archives, and just share some general thoughts about some of those items. This is by no means comprehensive. This is not meant to be a history lesson. I just thought for some of you that maybe don't know much about some of the awesome items that were available and manufactured in Japan or released in Japan, that you'd like to learn a little bit more about it. And then at the end of the video, we'll of course unbox the amazing Poppy that I was able to pick up after selling off a lot of stuff. So I am dead broke right now, but worth every penny because I got a really cool item to show you guys. So first of all, this is the general article, and I'll put a link to this in the description for this video so you guys can go check it out. It's just an old archive Rebel Scum article that just gives you a brief history 101 type thing for some of the awesome items that came out of Japan. And some of the early items that included, like these bottle caps. You often see these for sale in the Deal or No Deal group on Facebook, and it was kind of a collect-em-all type of situation, similar to Pokemon, except back in the 1970s, Coca-Cola ran some different promotions, and one of the items that you could get were these bottle caps that had characters on the underside of the bottle caps. So people do collect them all, and they can go for quite a pretty penny. There was also an early R2-D2 that was larger, that was branded with Coca-Cola and Star Wars on the front of it. And another very cool item. Here's the box for it. So this is probably one of the earliest, if not the earliest, Star Wars related action figure that you could get, and a very cool item. You see those for sale occasionally on eBay and Facebook and things like that. What we know and love are the 3 3/4 inch figures, and there were some early 12 backs with Takara, excuse me, Takara sticker. That's kind of like an import sticker on the front of these 12 backs, and I've got some better examples from Hakes here in a little while, so you can take a look at the full card there. And there were some larger figures that are very, very expensive that Takara put out. There were 8-inch figures for the Stormtrooper and Darth Vader, Chewbacca, and C-3PO. So here's a broader picture of those here. These are very, very pricey. The blisters are very fragile, so high-grade examples can set you back many thousands of dollars, especially for Chewbacca. That one seems to be one of the more expensive ones. Stormtrooper as well. I mean, really, all four of them are very pricey and very, very desirable items with big, bold Japanese writing on there. And let's take a look, you know, while we're at it, let's take a look at a few items. I did go to Hake's old auctions. This one was from a 2017 auction, so don't pay attention to the price because I'm sure that's no longer valid. But here was a beautiful 12-back B Stormtrooper with the Takara sticker on there. This was graded AFA 85. Very desirable early 12 backs with that Japanese writing on the front of the card back there. So beautiful example there. Here was the Darth Vader, and this one had the white background along with the orange footer. And those can be pretty pricey. The white backgrounds on those Takara Darth Vaders are ones that are very desirable. I've seen a few of them sell fairly recently, either on eBay or Facebook and things like that. But many, many thousands of dollars for that beautiful Takara Darth Vader. So you can also go check out the Blacked Out Ewoks on YouTube. I'm sure he's got a few videos from his collection with these gorgeous Takara 12 backs that are very, very much in demand. Another pretty well-known kind of grail item is this wind-up R2-D2. This is one that I believe that was available in Sears Canada, but was manufactured, I think, it was made in Japan, as you can see there, Takara wind-up R2-D2. But this is a mint-on-card example, which again will set you back many hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars. Even loose graded, they can go for $700 to $900 pretty easily, depending on the grade. But another kind of cool, wonky item. And that's kind of the theme for a lot of the Japanese items, is that they're just a little different, right? They're just kind of an interesting side focus for a lot of collectors. And you find these kind of unique items that were only made in Japan. But this one was distributed in Canada as part of Sears, I believe. But a very, very desirable item as well. Here's another close-up again of those 8-inch Takara figures. And again, you can find these either loose and complete, or loose incomplete, or still mint on card. But just be aware that you want to zoom in really carefully on the blisters for these, because they are very fragile and oftentimes can crack and have dings and things like that. But wow, how cool are those? The C-3PO is very cool. The Chewbacca is probably the coolest one because he just looks so 70s. He's very reminiscent of some of the early Star Wars Marvel comics, where Chewbacca is much more stylized and not kind of like movie accurate or things like that. So that's another really cool figure. It's very wide and kind of bulky, but he came with a bowcaster as well as a loose bandolier that went around his chest. The Japanese figures that also came out were some of these die-cast figures. They were kind of interesting. And this was a die-cast Darth Vader. I don't know the exact height. I want to say 7.5 to 8 inches tall. And it came in like a box with like a styrofoam insert. And there were several of those. There was a C-3PO that had these rocket-firing kind of pieces that came on a sprue, and you could put them inside his stomach, and it would shoot out little rockets. So, again, just kind of a little different. It's got Japanese writing on the box there. Very, very cool. Here's the R2-D2 that also had a rocket-firing mechanism. It came with 4 different rockets that were on a sprue that you could then shoot out of this little hole on R2-D2, either on the top or maybe on the front. I'm not sure which, but that's another one you can find on eBay pretty regularly. Here's another kind of off-the-wall item. This is kind of a die-cast X-Wing fighter, and here's the back of the box that shows what that looks like. It's kind of like a model display piece, similar to like a die-cast, some of the Hot Wheels and things like that came with a little base, but this is a vintage item. And there were some kind of unpainted die-cast figures like R2-D2 and like a TIE fighter, things like that you can find on eBay pretty regularly for not too bad. A couple $100 will buy you one of those. But this one sold for $275 in July of 2022, and this was complete, but the box was, had some issues. It was an unused sticker sheet with a display stand. This one did come with a miniature R2-D2, but there were some of these kind of similar figures that were kind of gold that came on individual cards that were kind of like sealed on a blister with a die-cast R2-D2 that was flat, as well as a X-Wing fighter and a die-cast X-Wing and a die-cast TIE fighter. So again, just some other interesting items. Later on in the run, in terms of Return of the Jedi, there are some Tsukuda. These have the Tsukuda kind of import sticker on the back. And I do have a few of these in my collection. I've got the squid head as well as the Logray. This one was a Bouche that we talked about in a recent market update. This was yellow 80 grade from UKG that sold. It was a best offer accepted. It was listed for 350 pounds, which is 431 US dollars. These blisters are very, very fragile, so keep that in mind. And they very rarely are clear blister. I do have a Logray that's a clear blister, as well as the squid head that has a very slight yellow tint to it, I believe. But this one had pretty heavy yellowing. I did buy this one ungraded at one point, but by the time it got here from Japan, it was just mingled all to heck, and I had to return it. So just keep that in mind if you do buy any of these yellowed Tsukuda import sticker Return of the Jedi mint on cards, is that those blisters are much more fragile, in my opinion, than the standard US cards that are yellowed. So, but that's just another example of a Japanese item. And here's a nice close-up again of that import sticker that was on the back of these card backs. They were all 65 back Bs to my knowledge, and there's like 13 or 15 different characters that came with that Tsukuda import sticker. And then the very rare items that came out of Japan are these. These are like a shrink-wrapped Return of the Jedi cards that had the Power of the Force coin next to or included inside that shrink wrap. These are very, very expensive. I don't know how many characters they made them for. Obviously, you have the Imperial TIE Fighter palette here. I've seen Leia Combat indoor poncho. I believe I've seen a squid head as well. I'm sure there's many characters that had these, but I can promise you that these are very rare and very, very expensive. They can set you back $3,000 to $6,000, just depending on the character and if the shrink wrap is still intact and things like that. But that's just another very rare item. Another kind of off-the-wall item are these Japanese die-cast model kits that Tsukuda put out in 1982. I do have this one loose graded from CAS. It's kind of like a versus type of situation where they have two different vehicles that are battling against each other for a lot of these. And in this one, it's the AT-AT Snowwalker versus the Snow Speeder. And they came again shrink wrapped with all these die-cast pieces still kind of to be assembled, and included an instruction sheet. So I do have this one. Here are some other examples right here. And so you have the Millennium Falcon versus the Slave 1. You have a Star Destroyer versus the Millennium Falcon, I believe. Yeah, no, it's just the Star Destroyer on this one. This one has the Tantive 4 included, as well as the Millennium Falcon. So yeah, it does have those two. And those are to scale versus the size of the Star Destroyer. And then finally in this one, we have the TIE Fighter versus the X-Wing. So there's several different 1982 die-cast model kits that you can get that Tsukuda put out. And they're not terribly expensive. For all three of these, it's $180. This one was $53. This one's still available and for sale. So not terribly expensive. There's one other one. I think it's the AT-ST Walker. And I can't remember. I think it's versus the Snow Speeder again, but I'm not positive on that one. But I've got two of those, and I don't have any of the others. This is a Tsukuda board game. This is called the Battle of Endor. This is like a sealed board game that you can get that was made by Tsukuda. And here's the label on that. It says Combat on Moon Endor Simulation Game SF Series from Tsukuda. And this was from 1983. And this was graded AFA 80. This is for sale on eBay right now for $350. So pretty cool item. I love the box art on this one. I actually bid on a couple of these over the years and just have never won one, but it's just a box, you know, a board game. But I just love the card art, or the box art on it. It's just incredible. Shows the Ewoks and C-3PO and R2-D2, Leia, Han, Luke, along with a biker scout and an AT-ST driver. So, or AT-ST. So very, very cool Return of the Jedi board game. And then finally, before we show you my items, I wanted to talk about the poppies. Here are the 15 characters that were made for these Japanese poppies. They came out around The Empire Strikes Back in 1980. And we just talked about them in the Hakes auction that ended here recently. Lot 237 had a number of them for sale. I think they had 13 of the 15. So the characters that came for these poppies were Boba Fett, which is the most expensive. We just talked about that one. That was graded AFA 85. That sold for almost $10,000. Darth Vader's another very expensive one. R2-D2, C-3PO, Luke Bespin, Han Hoth, Chewbacca, Luke Farmboy is another pricey one. The Stormtrooper, the R5-D4, Luke X-Wing, the Hoth Rebel Soldier, the Death Star Droid, the Hoth Snowtrooper, which apparently is a very rare one, tough one to find, and then Han Solo First 12. So those are the 15 different poppies that came, and they came inside a box with some paperwork. And now I think is a good time to pull out the one that just arrived from Hakes that I picked up. After selling a bunch of stuff, I was able to pick this up. I had some good fortune. So let's go ahead and take a look at that right now. So I think it's time to unbox my Hakes winning. It was, you know, not the one I really wanted. The one I really wanted was the R5-D4, as I talked about in my kind of summary for the Hakes auction, lot 237. But I did get the Death Star Droid, and here are two that were already in my collection. This is an AFA 85, loose graded, and then I also have this CAS graded baggie, which is the ESB-A baggie. And that's graded 80 plus. I also do have the SWD baggie that's at CAS right now to be graded. I expected to get about an 80 or 80 plus as well, but very happy to to get another addition to my Death Star Droid run. And I think it's time to show you guys what it is. And here it is. This is the Japanese Poppy Death Star Droid, and very, very happy to get it. The R5-D4, obviously, as I talked about, it had that apology note in there that apologizes for misnaming R5-D4 on on the box, but that was a really nice one. It just went a little bit too high for me. So this one was my backup option, and price-wise, it worked out pretty well. It was basically the last remaining money I had, almost to the dollar, after accounting for the buyer's premium and for shipping costs from Hakes, and they did a great job with this. It's just an absolutely stunning item, and my first Poppy, probably my last Poppy, just given how expensive they are. But here it is, and here is a close-up of the box. Just everything about it just screams Japanese. Very, very cool here. Let's see if we can get it to stay focused here. There we go. So it includes these two pamphlets that were included in all boxes. It's got a Star Wars one here, and then I guess some other kind of toy line that was available at the time from Poppy. And then here's the baggie, really crisp condition. And here is the back of it, so you can see the back of the box. The box basically looks the same. I guess these are like Power Rangers here, and then you got C-3PO on the back, and then obviously the back of the baggie. So here is the label on it. 1980 Poppy Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back Death Star Droid, graded 85. The box got an 85, the wrapper got an 85, and then the figure got an 80. I don't know why this got an 80 score for the figure. I will probably do a close-up of it at some point just to see why, but I would imagine it's probably some scratches or something like that on the figure itself. But pretty incredible edition, and as I mentioned, there are 15 total Poppies, but you will not find me trying to put together the entire set. I just wanted to get one for one of my character focuses, and R5-D4 just went too high, so my next best bet was my Death Star Droid. So I think I've got 6 or 7 different mint-on cards for the Death Star Droid. I will have, at some point soon, 2 baggies and a loose graded example, and then now I've got the Japanese Poppy. So very, very excited to get it. And I forgot to say this earlier, but I want to say thank you to those of you who purchased from me recently on Rogue 5 Toys or privately. A number of you purchased a number of items from me. I think I've sold almost 30 different items over the last couple of months to help pay for this Japanese Poppy, as well as several big Star Wars CGC comic books and some other non-Star Wars comic books that I'm sure I'll show in a video soon. So I think I sold 30 items and I bought 3 or 4 items altogether. So truly downsizing the collection to try and make room for some more expensive items. Just having, you can't keep everything, and that's the case here. I just could not keep everything, so I sold off some modern prototypes, some graded vintage collections, some graded Power of the Force. I'm sure, but I know I sold a bunch of comic books as well. I think I sold 8 different CGC 9.8 comic books over the last couple of months, either through Rogue 5 Toys on Facebook or on eBay. So was able to be patient and have some financial discipline. I didn't buy anything else really other than this and 2 comic books over the last, I'd say, 3 months. But it did take some work to put together the funds for it. But I'm really, really happy to have this one in my collection, and truly one of my favorite loose graded items in my collection as well. So anyway, I also did put together a very brief slideshow at the end with some close-ups of the front and back, as well as the grading label for those interested. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.